So I ask again. In your opinion, what is the current state of the black student?
Um, I would say the current state of black students, I think it reflects the current state of the African American community. In that, students don't just come from a vacuum; they come from communities, and whether those communities are functioning or dysfunctional, it really shows up when students get here. And quite often we think of the university as being a place that's beyond what's going on in the rest of society. But, we look, the 1980s, we know, and late 1970s were a pivotal period of issues of drugs, issues of divorce, issues of family breakups within our community. And so students come, from that time period, from, the 70s, 80s, early 90s to college, and they get here, and we're surprised that they're somewhat dysfunctional, whether it has to do with that they came from families where dad wasn't there. Mom was a mother at 15, and she's not the best mother in the world simply because she didn't know. So I say all that to say that we have to, I think, do a better job at looking at the larger society and then beginning to judge students based on that. But I see a lot of students that once they've been shown the light, for lack of a better word, that they say, wow, okay, this makes sense. I understand now why these type of things were happening in my community, or this is a problem. And that's good, because to some extent you don't have to convince people that there are problems in our community. They realize that, they understand that, and they know it firsthand. So there's some blessings that go along with what's going on.
So moving forward, what are some things that we could do to better the state or enhance the communities to which we graduate and come back to the community that we have here at MTSU as black students?
And some of the things I think we can do to empower our communities would be, one, to realize that we have a responsibility. So many people are kind of like, what was the basketball player who said he didn't have any responsibility? Charles Barkley. He said, I'm not nobody's role model. And that's basically saying, I don't have a responsibility to these communities. And I think lots of times we believe that our community is where we grew up. Your community is actually where you end up, because that's where you're going to spend the predominant amount of your time. I ended up in Murfreesboro or in Antioch. That's my community. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. But how much time can I spend on the south side of Chicago now that I'm a professional here? This is my community. So, we have to realize, one, that we have a responsibility. The Yoruba, which is an ethnic group out of Nigeria, said that God, or what they say, Olodumare, gave us the responsibility. It says that the children of Oduduwa were given the responsibility to bring good to the world. And they asked the question, they said, why do we have to go back from heaven to earth? We're tired. We just like to stay here in heaven. And they said that Orumala told them, no, you have a purpose, a mission, that you have to bring good to the world. And they said, well, what is this good condition? And they said, it's a condition that there is no more fear, there is no more premature death, there is no more war. Basically that evil is run out. And they said, well, how do we do this? They said, we do this by wisdom, sacrifice, good character, and wanting to bring good to the world. So that's our mission. However we do that, some of us might do that through teaching. Some of us might do that through nursing. Some of us might do it through being a lawyer or being a doctor, being a janitor. You know, you look at, you know, lots of times as African Americans we believe, well, I've got to be a doctor, a lawyer, and those are only two professions that we can be, or an accountant. But, you know, there are janitors who work in our community. Every time they see a kid in school acting up, you know, in the bathroom or doing something, hey boy, what you doing in there? Come on out of there. That's a role model, because we need to have some janitors, whether we believe it or not. That's a real need. We need mechanics. We need bricklayers. We need plumbers. But what we need is people who are going to be plumbers, who are serious about bringing good to the world. I'd rather have somebody who's a street sweeper, who's committed to bringing good to the world, than somebody who's a doctor who's not. And I think that's the big thing. We have to really remember we have a responsibility. We need to be more active in finding our spiritual center. I don't mean our religious center, our spiritual center. And, you know, take our spiritual maturation and growth seriously. Because ultimately, your spiritual growth leads to how we, our concepts of morality, our concepts of, you know, how we're going to raise our children, our concepts on whether we're open to new ideas. You know, most people who are very spiritual are less dogmatic than folks who are very religious. You see it with the Republican Party. Right? So yeah, I think it behooves us as a community and folks who graduate. You know, W.B. Du Bois called us the talented tenth. Right? He said that we are the 10% in the community that has a responsibility to uplift the other 90%.